video is in continuation with the series on basic Python. Now let's start with heading to colab.research.google.com and creating a new notebook. And let's call this document as third session. As I told you in the previous class that we will be learning about taking data inputs from the user and typecasting. So let's start. Mm, Let me put the heading as data input. Okay. So the simplest thing that we do while taking an input from the user is we put a command input with simple brackets. This is the basic command to ask an input from the user. This will give a prompt for the user to enter anything. Let it connect. Yes. So you see boxes appeared. I can enter some numbers here and it takes it. But what we are doing with this? We are not doing anything with this now. So let's do something with this. Let's see how we can make it more interactive, like input, and just like we did in the print to display the things. Generally, in other coding languages, you will see that what is done is that they will print what they want to ask and then they will give the input, like they will ask the input. But in Python, we have the ease that we can do both the things in just one line of code, that is input, and then in bracket quotation marks we can write as if it was inside a print statement, and it will be displayed just before the prompt, like please enter your name, and I run this. So this time it will display please enter your name, and like let's say I did it. It took it. One very unique problem with this is that actually in the print statement, a new line was automatically added. Here, neither a new line nor a space is automatically added. So you'll have to manually give it. Either I generally use \t, that is for tabbed spaces. So some space will appear there, or you can even use \n to display the things. This whole thing is of no use if you are just taking the inputs and doing nothing with this. So as we have learned about variables in the previous session, let's combine both of them. Like suppose I store name equals to input, please enter your name. Okay. And then in the next line, I say print hello, and then as we have seen that we can do it like this. We saw this in the first class. Hello, and then the name of the person I want to display. Let's put exclamation mark here, and then to put a full stop we will have to do again quotation marks. So it is asking the name, so let's put the name as the. So now it displays. This is that we are taking the input, we are storing it. It is not necessary that we display it outright. We can use it to do some more works. Like let's ask the age equals to input. Please enter your age. City equals to enter your city. And then uh, suppose we want to display all of them in one go, like hello, and then the name of the person, you are whatever is the age, years old, and live at city. Right? So let's run this. So let's enter the name Hari. I am putting some fictitious names. Let's put the age as 13, city as say Kolkata, and you see here it is taking the variables. So we can accept an input from the user, we can store the values, then we can use those variables later on, like we have learned in variables. Right. So you might be thinking that, okay, if we are taking the input and we are just displaying it, what is the advantage? The advantage is when we will do calculations on based on this, when we will do manipulations based on this. Okay. So let's ask some numbers and do some calculations or some manipulations on it. So let's say uh, a or let's say num1. While naming the variables, I think forgot to tell you in the previous class that actually while putting the names should be meaningful. The name of the variable should be meaningful and relatable. That makes it easy for us to understand the program when we see it later on. Okay, so let's say num1, that's short form for number one. I am asking the input and saying enter a number. Okay, and then num2 equals to input, enter another number, and let's just sum them. Okay, so let's print and write the sum is, and as we saw in the first class itself, that the print statement can even do the calculation, like you can just put the calculation here. It's num2. Okay, let's run this and see what happens here. So let's enter a number, simple number 12, and let's add 14. Uh, but here, to your surprise, actually it should have been 12 plus 14, that is 26, but it gave us 1214, that is actually 12 and 14 put one after another. This is happening because here the input, actually whatever we give the input as, the input function takes the value always as as a string, takes the value as string, not an integer. So it is standard. So what should we do? The thing that we have to do is that, remember in the previous class we saw that actually we can change from one type of data to another type of data, and that is we were able to do typecasting. That thing is called typecasting. Okay, so let's write it in a better way. Let's just modify this one only. Okay, so what I can do is that I can either do it like I can say num1 equals to int num1. This will also work, or we can we can write it here itself, int, and then in bracket the input, enter another number. Okay, both of these are the correct methods. So if we run this and we put 12 and then let's say 14, this time it will give us 26 because here it is being converted to integer. And what if I put some decimal numbers here? So let's put the number, some decimal number 13.6. But before we put the second number, it is saying invalid literal for int with base 10, 13.6. So it gives us an error. So this thing will not work for float. So what is the solution for this? The solution is we have learned that actually we can convert to a floating point number. So let's put it as float. So I am just copying this code in a new code block. Instead of int, I am writing float. And let's do this. So let's put the number now 23.6 and it takes it 45.1 and it gives us the sum. But the problem will still be that if we put an integer, it will look like a float. Like suppose I enter, uh, let's put 14 and let's put 45. It gives us 59, but it gives us it as a decimal. If you want to avoid these things, there is a better way that will tackle both the things, integer as well as float. And that thing is called as eval. Okay, eval is short form for evaluate, and it is a very versatile command, and it is even used to evaluate uh, some expressions. We will see that when we will do arithmetic operations. Okay, and now in this case you will see that in fact it will work for integer as well as float, and for integers it will give integer output, for float it will give us floating output. So I've put 12, 15. It gives me 26 without that decimal part, and if I run it with floating point numbers, it will give me the floating point result, right? The decimal part. So this is how we take input from the user. So in general, when you are taking a number, always put eval. And if you are taking specifically some integers, in that case you will have to write int. But in such cases, when you enter a string, like in this case, if we by mistake, if someone enters a string like a s, and it will give us an error. So the solution to this is by handling the error. That is a complex topic that we will cover later on, but just understand that that can also be covered. Okay, so in the next class, we'll learn about arithmetic operators. Bye bye. See you in the next session.